So today's day 152, and what came to mind to me today was relationships once again, which is a running theme at the moment because there's a lot going on in relationships in my life at the moment. But what I was just thinking about was how we have the right to choose the relationships that we want in our life. However, often we can feel that we don't really have a choice to what relationships we have in our life. And we can continue having relationships with people that really don't serve us, that don't help us to be a better person, that don't help us to grow, that don't support us, don't nourish us, and don't make us feel good. However, we actually have the choice as to what relationships we want in our life. And we can create the relationships that we really desire and that we really, really long for and need in our life. And we don't really have to be part of any relationships that we don't feel really good in. So recently I've started to learn more about myself in relationship and what I really want in a relationship. And so what's happening is that some relationships are falling by the wayside. And part of me is kind of feeling like I need to explain to those people, like, oh, blah, 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 and go through a process with them as to why I'm no longer really wanting to be in that relationship so much. I care for these people, I wish them well, but I don't really actually want to engage in continuing the relationship. So there's part of me that feels like I need to explain and justify why I don't really want to be in that relationship anymore. And so it's like this part of me that wants to kind of process, well, I'm feeling this and that, and this is how the relationship, blah, 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 blah. But actually, I don't need to do that. And it's really freeing knowing that I actually don't need to go through a whole process with this person or people to help them understand why I don't want to be in the relationship anymore and justify myself and explain everything. I actually don't need to do that. I can just kind of bless and release them, if you want to say it like that. I can just release myself from the relationship. I don't actually have to explain or justify because they're not going to get it. Basically, they're not going to understand it. They're not going to get it. And it's probably going to just result in a big mess. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want to be in that relationship, is because they don't get it. The relationships that I'm actually talking about, they're not deep friendships. They're more like acquaintances. And they're just, I might see this person every couple of months. I might speak to them every 3, 4, 5 months or something like that. There's not really much of an ongoing relationship. However, when we come together, there is a nice connection, but there's something really missing in that relationship that doesn't serve me at all and makes me feel kind of unheard and unseen and unsupported. So there is a need for me to get out of that relationship, and doing so, I don't need to justify or explain myself because it's not a really deep, nourishing relationship. We're not really, really connected. It's coming to terms with understanding that I don't have to process everything with everybody. It's just not necessary because most people don't want to do that. They don't appreciate that. They don't understand it, and they don't even like it. Knowing that we can create the relationships that we wish to create and draw into our lives the people that we wish to be in relationship with, instead of thinking that we are obligated to have these relationships that don't serve us, don't support us, and are actually really unhealthy for us. We don't have to do that. We can be in relationship in a way that nourishes us and supports us and makes us feel good and lifts us up. Take a look at the relationships that we have in our lives and look at them deeply and ask ourselves, is this relationship really supporting me? Is it nourishing me? Is it helping me to be a better person? Or is this relationship just something that kind of like drags me down and that allows all my negative traits to come out? Does it encourage me to do things that I really don't want to do, that are unhealthy for me mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually? There's nothing wrong with taking radical responsibility and saying, no, this relationship is not healthy for me, and I am now deciding to take myself out of this relationship and concentrate on creating really healthy, vibrant, uplifting, empowering relationships for myself that help me step into my greater good. And if you're anything like me, you might find that a lot of the relationships that you've created in your life are all about you supporting the relationship. So you traveling to go and see the person, you texting the person, you calling the person, you emailing the person, you meeting the person, and it's all based on you doing the relationship rather than a back and forth, nourishing, meeting each other, one supporting you, then you supporting them, and this kind of really nice reciprocal empowering relationship. A lot of the relationships, if you're anything like me, can actually be about us holding the relationship, supporting the relationship, and really being the person who holds the main foundation of the relationship. And what happens, that becomes completely exhausting, and then we don't have people who support us and nourish us and allow us to be met in all the relationship needs that we have as well. We just find ourselves supporting everybody else. And I'm very lucky because I've got a lot of really amazing women in my life who support me and hold me and nourish me. I'm very, very lucky. And I have also created a lot of relationships where I am the one supporting and holding and creating and nourishing other people. I'm starting to step back and just take myself gently out of those relationships. So not be like, that's it, I'm out of here. None of that kind of drama, but just like gently stepping back away from the relationship so that I'm not causing any pain or anguish or anything like that, but I'm just gently taking myself out of the relationship and really focusing on the other relationships that are nourishing and supporting and empowering for me and really lift me up as a woman. So we have a choice. We have a choice to the relationships that we want. And the best questions to ask are, is this relationship healthy for me? Does this relationship empower me? Does this relation give back to me? Does this relationship allow me to give in a way that still energizes me? Is it supporting me? Is it nourishing me? Is it empowering me? They're all really good questions to ask in the relationships that we have, because this is vitally important that we surround ourselves with people in relationships that are really good for us, that nourish us and create healthy connection in our life. Because we cannot do life on our own. We're not meant to do life on our own. We're meant to do life together, and we need positive, good, empowering relationships. Having said that, when we step out of relationships, it's really important, as I said just before, to do it gently in a way that doesn't create more drama and the need to justify and explain and processing and blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking about relationships that are more like acquaintances, or, some deep relationships that we also have are really unhealthy. And that might be the moment where you need to say to that person, I really have to step back from this relationship. And maybe there is some processing that needs to go on there together so that you can, allow that relationship to kind of end and be let go of. However, for me, what I'm talking about right now is more like acquaintances and more kind of people that I have in my life that aren't really, really close to me, but that I've kind of got hanging around on the periphery that are, I just know that they're really not actually all that healthy for me. That relationship's not actually really going to go anywhere. And it's just this thing that kind of pops up now and then and is not at all supporting, but is more disturbing than anything else. So there's so many different ways of dealing with the ending of a relationship, but I'm just talking about right now kind of like stepping back gently from the people that we're kind of, creating in our lives that are on the periphery, basically. But when we do have really deep relationships that we know are very unhealthy for us and not supporting us at all, if we want to end those relationships and we don't do it properly, they can get really, really messy, and then people can be hurt, and that's not a good thing. You don't want to create more drama in your life. We already have enough. We don't need to create any more. And some people that we have on the periphery of our life that are our acquaintances, they're going to be sucking our energy dry. And that's what we don't want. We don't want relationships in our life that kind of suck us dry and bring us down and take our energy away. We want relationships that are catalyzing and empowering and energizing. That's what we want, because that will help us be more of that in life. Are there relationships in your life that you spend time on that really don't serve you in any way at all, but you're spending time on that relationship for no good reason? And, that's kind of what I'm asking at the moment. That is what's coming up at the moment. Which relationships are just kind of like the old shoe you don't need anymore? I know that's a really bad analogy, but that's kind of what it is, right? It's like this dead weight, this relationship that's just dead weight. What don't you need anymore? And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but it's like there are relationships like that are just dead weight, and that person might call you, or you'll see them on Facebook and you're just like, like, why are we still in that relationship? We don't need to be in that relationship. There's no reason to be in that relationship. There's so many people in this world to create amazing relationships with, and we are not responsible for other people at all. We are responsible for us and what we create in our life, and that can be wonderful or it can suck you dry. So that is day 152.